On the program, the slick campaign from Te Pāti Māori to get Māori voters across to the Māori role using taumete. And if it comes off, if Māori switch, it'll be more than a stampede. It would cause a tectonic shift in the power base and the future makeup of not just Parliament, but potentially who governs. Māori voters could find themselves as the balance of power each election. So, how will they vote then? Welcome to the program.
Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, you're with the Editor-in-Chief. Welcome along. Evening, everybody. I'm Duncan Garner and welcome. Please subscribe. It helps us stay around. This is what the late founder of the Māori Party always told me, that if all Māori went on to the Māori role, there would be upwards of 13 seats, maybe 14 seats. Now, Tariara Turia told me when I was in her office interviewing her in 2001 that would be the case. That was her dream to get everyone across. And her party has not forgotten or misunderstood the message. This is crucial, and all New Zealanders should wake up and see what's going on here. Te Pāti Māori is campaigning to bring Māori voters home, if you like, to get them onto the Māori role. If they did, the game changes. So let me explain.
It's the Slam Dunk.
444,000 New Zealanders are not registered to vote at all. They're missing. Many are from marginalised communities. Many are Māori, and 444,000 missing voters. That's a city the size of Christchurch and Hawke's Bay put together. However, even those Māori who are registered to vote and politically engaged have their voting power split between the Māori role and the general role. So Māori voters who are registered total just over 500,000. Those registered on the Māori role number 261,000, and they get to vote in 7 Māori seats. Then there are just over 250,000 Māori voters on the general role who vote in the general electorate, you see. Okay, so 444,000 New Zealanders are not registered to vote at all. They're missing. Many are from marginalised communities, many are Māori. 444,000. As I said, that's a city the size of Christchurch, Hawke's Bay. That's one thing. However, even those Māori who are registered to vote have split themselves across the Māori and general role. And in many ways, it weakens their significance. You could say those Pākehā institutions whose job it is to give Māori voters the option to switch haven't always pushed it that hard, perhaps for fear that it would cause a power shift in favour of Māori voters. I mean, why would National and ACT want to make it easy for Māori to come together politically and be stronger? So all up, Māori voters who are registered, total just over 500,000. Those registered on the Māori roll, 261,000, they get to vote in 7 seats. Then there are just over 250,000 Māori voters on the general roll, as I said. Okay, they vote in the general seats. Imagine, say, if those 250,000 went across to the Māori roll. Suddenly, you'd have 500,000 enrolled Māori voters in Māori electorates. And these huge electorates, which they are now, which are far too big to service, would go from 7 of them to 14. And Te Pāti Māori have never forgotten this. Now in a new campaign, it's a slick, well-resourced, well-funded campaign, using the voices of people like Taika Waititi and fronted by taumete, have produced this. It's a simple calling out of names. Voters they want to bring home. Voters they want to find. I can't see how it won't have some sort of impact.
Kia ora. I'm here to call the roll. Rawiri Shedlock, Kia Poi Hippie, Desmond Te Moana McLean, Edwina Taylor. If you are Māori and eligible to vote, you have a choice. General role or Māori role. Materua Graham. Camellia Briggs. Tēnā koe. The more people on the Māori roll, the more Māori seats in Parliament, ensuring a Māori voice in the decisions that shape Aotearoa. Will you answer the call? Peini kai nuku, tāmati taurere.
Te Pāti Māori may look like mad radicals to many Pākehā, and even some Māori have voiced concerns over their dismissal of Parliament's rules and their aggressive and arrogant approach, but there's a method to their madness that Pākehā voters should simply not easily dismissed. They're wanting to stand out in the crowded political market, which they certainly have. They want to show young Māori that this is the waka to join, the new modern, aggressive, activist face of Māori. Why join the old Labour Party and be ineffective and come under the rules of Hipkins and the old Labour Party when you can be Māori, for Māori, by Māori, always Māori, into Pāti Māori? I get why they've taken such an aggressive, whistleblowing approach to the current situation. They're saying to Māori, this is where 200 years of this rule has got us, so who's now impatient for change? I get that. They're saying it hasn't delivered for us Māori, so let's shake it up. In many ways, it's been a hugely successful campaign. They have stood out, at times arrogantly so. And they've got right up the noses of Pākehā New Zealanders, but they don't care about that. This is deliberate. They want to shake up the place and shake up the system and get the old parties who are set in their ways to change. And they should be deeply worried and deeply concerned about this, because this threatens the old party's entire political existence and grip on power. 1 in 4 people aged under 18 in New Zealand identify now as Māori. So mixed marriage, mixed blood, intermarriage between cultures has been happening for decades in this young country, and now the results are starting to emerge and speak for themselves. The entire question, what is Māori, who's Māori, what do they look like and sound like, comes into question. Increasingly, you can't tell and won't be able to tell who's Māori. To be Māori is to whakapapa Māori, and that's to have some lineage or some link or some line, some DNA link through your ancestry. That's all that matters. And Te Pāti Māori knows this. All the stats, they know all the stats. President John Tamahiti may not be your cup of tea, but he's politically savvy, and he's decided to go for change from the ground up and use things like the hikoi as a mechanism to make the changes happen. So thousands of people actually jumped onto the Māori roll during the week-long hikoi. They were able to. Smart. Now this latest campaign, which comes as politicians mourn the tragic death and surprise loss of Te Pāti Māori MP Takutai Tashkemp from Parliament, herself a fierce fighter for urban Māori in South Auckland, someone who did so much work empowering young Māori, and her loss has really been felt in Parliament. And from this podcast, certainly our sympathies to her wider whānau, but in many ways it's flawed MPs and brought Parliament to a truce-like state. Look at this.
Despite her and I having contested the election, how close we were together. That's right. And how we worked for the benefit of our community. And to hear this news it's truly shocking.
And that was the competition. That's the guy that she beat. The truth is, come next week, parties will have to plan a by-election in that seat. Labour feels like the seat was stolen from them after Te Pāti Māori allegedly used data it shouldn't have had access to win the seat. And the win was by just 42 votes. And I expect Labour to fiercely fight for the seat. They want it back. But it's complicated because Te Pāti Māori will want to hold the seat too. And where do the Greens stand? The right will stand back, grab the popcorn and just watch it, I'd say, unfold. And I think they'll just leave the left to fight for themselves and fight amongst themselves. Irony is, all the parties that will fight for the seat come from within the potential alternative government that Labour would front. Labour is going to fight Te Pāti Māori and the Greens if they decide to stand. If the Greens don't stand, they'll probably likely support who? Te Pāti Māori? Anyway, they will be fighting amongst each other for this seat. So the right will grab the popcorn and watch the scrap play out. Labour's fighting for its credibility amongst Māori voters, really. Will they get their ass handed to them? And what does that say about Labour's grip or old grip on the Māori vote? Do they even have one anymore? Is it so historic that it's no longer in the fight or game for the Māori votes? And will Auckland Māori punish Labour for decades of taking them nowhere and taking them for granted? While the sympathy vote, the activist vote, goes to Te Pāti Māori. It's a hiding to nothing for someone. And maybe the Greens stay out of this altogether and just sing Kumbaya from the sidelines. I can tell you who will be there, however. JT, John Tamahiti, Te Pāti Māori President, making sure that every young, middle-aged and old Māori who isn't registered does get enrolled, and every Māori on the general roll is swapped over to empower potentially his party and his party into the future, you see. JT is future-proofing not just his party, but making sure that the Māori vote counts well into the future. He's smart. Imagine Te Pāti Māori holding 14 seats. It'd be the balance of power forever. And given their view of the right, the National Party, well, the National Party might find it hard to stay in power or get into power ever again. 14 seats is some voting bloc. And Te Pāti Māori have made it clear they can't see themselves doing business with Chris Luxon and David Seymour. They just can't. I'm not saying that the 14 seats would automatically go to Te Pāti Māori, but you have to say, given they've got a whole heap of them now, they'll pick up a few more. This is, of course, a long way off, but it's no longer hypothetical. The Democratic levers are there to be pulled, and Tamahiti's identified that and he's putting them. And as hard as ever, he's making this scenario happen, you see. There's a lot more to play out in this yet.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, let's bring in Christchurch producer Isaac. Mate, how's things? That scenario is entirely possible. You get out there and enrol a quarter of a million Māori voters back onto the Māori roll. You got yourself a game, mate. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's a cool ad campaign too. It looks great.
Great campaign. They're slick as all money. You know, and I've been critical of Te Pāti Māori. You know, I've stood here down the barrel and been critical. But there's always been a wider thing going on here for Te Pāti Māori. That is, they have to stick out. If they were boring, they'd look like Labour. So they've got to be young and activist, and they can stand up. They've done that well. And so they go and do that. They bring people across. They've suddenly got a voting base of 500,000 people that all vote Te Pāti Māori, 14 seats. Hello. That's called the balance of power. They choose every election.
Totally.
Ooh. Anyway, there's a letter there. Do you want to read it?
Yes, I can read it. It says, Dear Duncan, thank you for your no-nonsense reporting and for giving the facts as they are, not something we get from our main news media today. I was wondering if you could investigate AT train services. For the public to use a train service, it needs to be reliable every time and it needs to run all days of the week. This is not the case with AT trains, AT of course standing for Auckland Transport. This year alone, there were no trains for all of January and throughout the school holidays and Easter. Furthermore, buses replaced trains on every long weekend, and we've had several long weekends so far. In addition, trains are often cancelled for all sorts of other reasons, such as signal issues, etc. I would estimate that for the equivalent of 2 months for the first 6 months of this year, there were no trains running. From the 19th of June to the 13th of July, school holidays, partial closures are in place yet again, and of course for essential upgrades. A few years back, the Eastern did not run for the best part of a year, and the Southern was not running for several months, all due to essential upgrades. I know they'll argue the importance of essential upgrades and that buses replace trains and there is a public transport available, but the reality is that a bus is not a train. It does not take the same number of people or the same time to get to a destination. I would argue, for most train commuters, a bus is not a good alternative. That is why they're on a train and not a bus. To me, it looks like the business model is to stop trains during all holiday periods, be that long weekends or school holidays, to save money under the guise of essential upgrades. This is a third world service and totally unacceptable in a country that promotes the use of public transport and the environment. Please ask some hard questions and get some statistics on the number of days per year the service actually runs. I hope you'll consider this as it affects all train commuters. Keep up the good work. Kind regards, Willem.
Yeah, it's an absolutely fair point, and you've given me some of that data already. I think it's not being fair. I think the third world services are better than what we have here. I think this is fourth world. The problem is this city of Auckland has grown really quickly, and it's grown really quickly population-wise. In the last 10 years, we've had. Well, look, it's taken New Zealand 180 years to get to 4 million. It took us another 10 years to get the extra 1.5 million, and they're all here. So it has been rapid growth. We haven't funded that growth. We've dumped everybody into Auckland and just said, eat that. And so the problem is we're trying to build backwards. And so you've got all these people now coming onto services that have been rushed to, we've rushed these services to market. And quite frankly, they're not good enough. We don't have the infrastructure has not been built. We've had too many shit mayors and shit prime ministers and shit governments who haven't promoted and put in the money where it should have been put in decades ago. And to build this properly decades ago. So now we're trying to patch it up as patchwork. It fucks me off. Really pisses me off that we have underinvested for far too long. We brought all the people in and we underinvested. I wrote about this and I was called racist. I don't know what race comes into it. Did I mention race? We've stacked up the city and we haven't built it at the same time. You've got a population fund. We haven't done that. Yes, Willem, I'm onto it. That is us. Right? It fires me up, this stuff. Gets me going. Pisses me off. Anyway, thanks for all your feedback and support. Get in touch with our social media at Duncan Garner Podcast on TikTok, Instagram. Flick us an email, duncan@rover.nz. To my team, Isaac is the man. He's my team. He's my man. We'll do this again a couple of days' time. And remember, life with no dress rehearsal, no curtain raiser, no nothing. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth. So get out and enjoy it, even if it's not on trains. Have a great rest of the evening. Look after yourselves. Take care. Ta-da.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.